Dust lifts like smoke as hooves skid across shredded grass. The llama's breath rasps, chest hammering, legs buckling in broken rhythm. A ring of wolves tightens, gray backs rippling, eyes like cold coins, their patience honed by hunger. One darts, another faints, and the circle breathes inward, a living snare. The ground tilts with panic as the llama pivots, missteps, recovers, heart stuttering at the flash of fangs. Claws rake earth where his flank was a heartbeat earlier. The meadow's emerald calm lies trampled, smeared with claw lines and fear. Above, vultures scribble dark loops against a rinsed blue morning, as if writing an ending he has not earned. The alpha's scar catches light. The ring closes. A final lunge uncoils, and the world shrinks to breath, heat, and the wire-drawn distance between survival and a tearing mouth. Sound arrives before form, a deep, old thunder tearing the wind's veil. A tawny blaze detonates into the ring, heavier than speed should allow, body reading the pack's geometry like a script of blood. Jaws seize momentum and break it. A wolf tumbles, stunned by a violence it understands too late. Dust blooms into a pale halo around the impact. The lion's mane darkens with exertion, shoulders rolling like living stone as he bars the llama's collapse with presence alone. The pack recalibrates, instincts splintering between retreat and frenzy. The alpha tests space and finds none. The lion has turned the circle into a cage, with himself as the hinge. The meadow's sound changes. No more light footfalls, only the churn of heavier breath, the scrape of claw on bone, and a single certainty rising in the llama's chest. Death has met an older name. The lion's force is not infinite, only focused. Each strike costs flesh. A wolf rides in low and scores ribs. Another rips the flank and springs away, leaving a rake of red that beads and runs in the mane like braided thread. The lion refuses distance, closing every angle, forcing single combat in a crowd, denying them their pack. Muscles tick under tawny hide, heat steaming from wounds, breath thickening. The llama staggers clear of the immediate maelstrom, legs quaking, mind blinking between flight and the impossible sight. A predator buying the seconds of a prey's life. The lion's paw hammers skull, teeth find throat, a desperate yelp cuts short. But the price compounds. The lion blinks blood from one eye, stance shifting, weight sinking into pain. The wolves learn patience again. They circle the wounded fire, measuring when heat becomes ash. Adrenaline thins to a bitter taste. The llama's hind leg trembles, a tremor running the length of his body like a plucked wire. He edges backward, not from cowardice, but from the exposed geometry of the fight. Proximity would make him a liability. The air smells of iron and torn grass. Every breath scrapes. The lion's silhouette heaves in the near field, a broken statue refusing collapse. The llama's vision tightens, edges darkening. Memory tries to surface, something about water, mud, eyes level with fear, but it slides away, too slick to hold. A wolf's shadow crosses the sun, and the llama flinches, expecting impact, receiving only passing shade. He feels the land as if for the first time. Shallow dips, hidden stones, damp patches where dew still clings. Survival here is the shape of terrain pressed into instinct. The alpha steps forward, old scars pale against coarse fur, muzzle lifting to scent calculation. His breath fogs lightly in the morning chill. He knows the rhythm of blood loss. He knows that endurance favors the many. The pack holds, a tense orbit, eyes switching from the lion's heaving flank to the llama's unsteady stance. Two younger wolves jitter at the edges, energy without patience, but the alpha's stare cools them. A silent command spreads like a shadow. cut the tether, widen the threat, reclaim the prey that started this hunt. He edges left, giving the lion a throat-level question, then yields it, content with time. The meadow feels colder. The llama senses the decision without knowing its words. Pressure redistributes. A split is coming, the pack's body dividing into skilled parts. Mercy has never lived here. Hours earlier, dawn lay like silk on the field. The llama cropped dew-bright blades beside his family, the rhythm of chewing a soft metronome for a simple life. The light made everything forgiving, hills smoothed, shadows softened, the ground's hard truths hidden under a sheen of bloom. Birds stitched loose arcs above. The air smelled of wet earth and clean leaves. The llama's spirits expanded to fit the space. No edge snagging his thoughts, no scent tilting his ears. His wife moved with quiet economy, her presence a calm field within the field. 3 young ones nudged one another, inventing games out of nothing, their legs too long for safety, but perfect for joy. In this hour, the world asked for little and gave more than it should. Nothing in the wind's language said danger. The young traced looping chases, hooves tapping a bright rhythm across springy turf. One tested bravery against a tuft of taller grass, leaping it as if clearing a canyon, landing with a proud little wobble that drew silent amusement from their mother. Sun slanted, soft and gold. The llama watched, chest warm with a satisfaction so unremarkable it felt like weather. Flecks of seed clung to the little one's lashes. A butterfly hovered, bright as a coin, somehow always just ahead of reach. The world bestowed small prizes without cost. Somewhere near the stand of saplings, beetles moved under bark, a tiny industry that signaled nothing. The meadow carried sound in long, comfortable lengths. Even the distant ridge seemed friendly, a curved horizon without intent. Peace taught them the dangerous lesson that every day might look like this. Not all warnings are loud. Sometimes they arrive as a pause shaped like listening. The mother lifted her head, nostrils flaring with a braid of scents: wet soil, new grass, faint musk carrying under the dew. Her ears turned, pinpointing a silence within the birdsong, a missing note that rearranged the whole tune. She shifted her weight subtly, aligning herself between the children and the most open round. The llama noticed, small as the moment seemed, and read it not as panic, but as a knot forming in a rope. He followed the wind's slow hand across the field. Nothing overt met him. The ridge lay ordinary. The sky poured light. Yet the air felt slightly heavier, the way a room changes when a door opens somewhere behind you. The young one's play dimmed, laughter translated into careful steps. Across the way, the ridge lifted like a brow. At its edge, a charcoal shape held itself barely distinct from stone and scrub. The watcher did not breathe loudly enough to stir dust. Eyes cut sunlight into thin, useful lines. The wolf's posture blended patience with mathematics. Distance equals time. Time equals hunger, met without waste. The meadow below performed its ordinary life, unaware of the ledger where such mornings are balanced. The watcher tracked patterns, lines of retreat, bottlenecks of brush, slopes that steal speed. He measured wind that would carry scent and sound. Risk for one becomes certainty for many when the many move as one. He slid backwards, careful not to silhouette against the sky. Behind him, shadows waited that were not rock. The ridge swallowed his outline like a mouth closing. They came with the quiet of learned craft, not the clatter of arrogance. Footfalls mapped to soil softness, tails leveled to erase excitement, ears tuned to the arithmetic of small noises. The alpha sampled the air and organized space. Two left into the shallow hollow, one right to cut the small gully, another set to sit invisible beside the path that looked safest. The meadow, moments ago an open book, became a palimpsest of intention. Each wolf held a thread in a net that had no visible cord. The wind shifted quarter, and they shifted with it, as if responding to a conductor that did not exist. The field offered them cover in single blades and small dips. The alpha's ears twitched, and the pack became stillness wearing fur. If danger has breath, it held it here. The first rush looked like wind. Grasses lay down in a line, then sprang up too late. The wolves unfurled from geometry into speed, each vector converging on the family where sunlight still pooled warm. The mother moved before thought, curving her body to gather the children with motion alone, sweeping them toward the tree line without panic, because panic shatters steps. The llama pivoted hard, hooves carving crescents. The meadow broke into noise. Wing beats erupted, insects scattered. The ground quivered under a running story that changed its ending with every stride. Wolves cut angles, their timing exact, teeth flashing not as threat, but as tools already employed. The family's refuge narrowed to green shadows. The alpha kept distance to control the pattern, not to indulge caution. Hunt had become event, and event had teeth. The forest accepted the small bodies first. Soft needled light offering cover the meadow refused. Leaves carried the children's heat into dimmer air. She counted without numbers. Shapes, sounds, the rhythm of breath behind her, the absence of it if one stumbled. She pressed them deeper, steering between fallen branches, dodging thorned hushes of undergrowth, finding that perfect speed where silence can still live. Behind, the hunt's thunder dimmed but did not vanish. She planted herself at a narrow cut between two angled trunks, turning her body into a gate that let fear pass, but kept flesh safe. The children folded into the green, eyes wide, mouths open to calmer air. She listened. The wolves' chorus shifted wider. The meadow noise receded, replaced by a far growl like weather. She did not relax. She did not move.
The llama faced the open, measured the distance in heartbeats, and chose the harder arithmetic. He angled his run toward the hills, an invitation shaped his motion, offering himself as a solvable problem where the forest provided only complications. He cut across the wolves' lines so they had to chase him or waste energy reweaving the net. Fear sharpened his steps, courage made them costly. He felt the pack's gaze swivel, heat collecting at his flanks like sunlight concentrated through glass. The wind changed, and his scent drew a line the wolves could write their hunger along. He did not look back. Looking back fractures stride. The ground rose in slow grades toward the rocks. Each lift of terrain asked more of lungs and legs. He gave what he had, then more, leaving pieces of ease behind him like shed leaves. Speed stretched into a thin pain that hummed through bone. The wolves shaped to terrain, a river of gray flowing around obstacles without eddy. The alpha held a patience that looked like mercy and was not. Across the rising ground, the llama threaded narrow passages where brush strangled the path, gambling on tightness to purchase seconds. The pack poured through anyway, bodies finding space that appeared only when they needed it. The hills threw sound oddly. A bark arrived from the left, then the right, confusing distance until the idea of map surrendered to the reality of pursuit. The llama's lungs burned, froth rimmed his lips. A stone nicked a hoof. Pain flashed, almost welcome for its clarity. He held to rhythm because rhythm is a rope across bad water. The wolves shortened theirs, the rope frayed.
The ledge looked like a promise. Rock lifted in a shallow shelf with a narrow neck, a place where only one could follow at a time.
The llama lunged for it, muscles hauling weight up a slope that crumbled under hooves, small stones rattling like loose teeth. He found the lip, breath ragged, and turned to face a gap that seemed too high for his hunters. For a beat, silence resembled safety. Then the youngest of the pack gathered the world under his legs and launched, body a clean arc that closed the impossible like a door. Claws scraped his foreleg. He jerked back, smearing blood on stone. Hope collapsed into a smaller shape. The alpha didn't jump. He waited to see if fear would do his work for him. The llama pressed higher along the ledge, the rocks whispering crumble. Fatigue is a slow flood that pretends to be a leak. Sensation dulled at the edges, then sharpened cruelly in the center where breath lived. The llama's legs vibrated, a music of failure tuned too tight. Sweat darkened his coat, cooling too quickly where wind licked the ledge. Below, wolves fanned out to mirror each possible path, their patience a wall he could not climb. His vision tunneled, colors drained, leaving the world in scorched whites and deep shadow. He measured the cost of each step and found the ledger thin. The horizon offered no new shapes, only more rock. He set his weight, refusing collapse because collapse is an invitation too easily accepted. Somewhere far, crows argued over a future he wanted no part of. He stood against the argument of gravity and the persuasion of teeth.
The pack redrew the circle on stone. The alpha placed bodies like chess, each piece covering an exit that had never existed, only imagined by desperation. They did not rush the ledge. They ate time instead, a courteous cruelty. A pair tested the narrow approach with quick feints, mapping the llama's reflexes, learning the timing of his instinct. The young one, emboldened by the scrape of earlier success, danced closer, eyes glittering with the arrogance of almost. The ledge whispered grit under the llama's hooves. He leaned into the rock, feeling its cool argument against his heat. Wind flattened his mane and brought the smell of pine and distance that meant nothing to the present. The alpha raised his head and loosed a low call that tasted like decision. Hunger would be resolved here, now, under open witness. Silence arrives when choices are spent. The wolves went very still, the world narrowing to lines and angles and one fragile life tied to rock. No birds complained. Even the wind exhausted itself against the hillside and lay down. The llama counted heartbeats because counting breath invited panic. He listened for a miracle with the stubbornness of the soon-to-be lost. None came, which is not the same as nothing happening. Somewhere below the ridge, the ground trembled in a way that did not belong to wolves. The pack heard it too. Ears pivoted, eyes flicked, calculations re-entered. The alpha's lip lifted, annoyed at a variable. The llama nearly missed it, lost in the closeness of walls and the near taste of fur. Then, the tremor grew ribs and a voice, and silence tore.
The roar unfurled like weather breaking, not a sound but a pressure that urged the body to yield. It carried old authority, the kind that predates argument. The lion burst into view below, a sun-roughened force cut with red lines, mane matted, eyes hard with the knowledge of cost already paid. He didn't climb so much as claim surface, weight settling into every step with courtroom certainty. The pack bristled, then adjusted. This was no new god, just a rival suffering mortal arithmetic. Still, the calculus shifted. The ledge's geometry turned against the wolves. The lion made narrow ground a weapon. He rose level with the approach and set his body across it, a gate that bit back. The llama watched power position itself between him and the future, confused by the shape gratitude takes when fangs carry it. Conflict condensed. Space became a series of brutal exchanges where advantage lasted seconds and was purchased with flesh. The lion moved like memory and pain braided, precise and uncompromising. A wolf tested low. The lion met him with a downward hammer of paw that stunned spine. Another slipped to his rear. The lion twisted through hurt and delivered an arc of claws that made the air shout. Blood sprayed into the day's clean light and wrote a language predators read without schooling. The pack pressed, not reckless, but relentless. The alpha held back, reading breath, waiting for the exact sag of muscle that predicts collapse. The llama's throat worked around air like it had edges. Dust coated tongues. Every sound had weight and fell where it landed. The ledge trembled under the combined insistence of survival.
Victory is rarely clean. After a final surge that scattered 2 and drove 3 to a safer distance, the lion's back legs faltered as if a string had been cut. He sank, one knee kissing grit, a sound like swallowed thunder escaping him. Blood found gravity in new paths, beating, trickling, threading mane and shoulder. His chest heaved with the effort of refusing the floor. The world blurred at its edges, then sharpened cruelly on the wolf's eyes. The llama stepped forward without thinking, a useless offer of presence that meant everything. He could do nothing but witness. The lion angled his head so his good eye held the pack's line, refusing to give them the language of weakness. Pain wrote on every muscle. He still read as danger, but danger that had paid too much to keep the title. The alpha weighed the ledger and found the margins thin. A fight continued might claim the prey, but at a cost that bleeds into winter. He tasted the lion's persistence and recognized it as a trouble with longer teeth than hunger. He selected survival over bravado, which is how leaders live to lead. A low call rolled through the pack like a tide retreating over stone. Their bodies eased without softening, steps reversed into the cover of brush and shadow without surrendering the gaze that promised return. The young one bristled at retreat and received a quiet look that cooled him. The meadow breathed again, carefully, as if watched. Dust fell out of the air in lazy, guilty drifts. The lion did not chase. He held stillness like a blade. The llama exhaled the longest breath of his life.
The space between them might as well have been a river at flood. The llama crossed it in small, deliberate movements, each step an argument with instinct. The lion's head lifted half an inch. Not a warning, not a welcome, simply a statement. I remain. The air smelled complicated. Iron, sweat, crushed herbs, the faint sweetness of sap oozing from a scraped trunk. A fly investigated the lion's flank and was dismissed by a twitch that caused pain. The llama stopped close enough to feel the heat radiating from wounds, the tremble beneath skin as muscle ran signals late. Fear and gratitude braided into a single rope inside his chest, thick and tight, impossible to separate. He lowered his head, not in submission, but in acknowledgement that survival had changed shape and would not be simple again. A smear of mud on the lion's foreleg, dark against tawny, unlocked a door the llama had bricked over with ordinary days. Water high from a past rain, a riverbank softened to treachery. A lion, younger but still immense, misjudging firmness and sinking to the shoulder, rage spent on clay that did not care. The memory rose whole, a struggle observed from the safety of distance, the choice to step closer because the eyes in the mud were not predators that day, only creatures. Hooves tamping the bank to firmer edges, weight shifted to carve a ramp, a grunt that was not language but meaning. The lion hauled free, coated in brown armor, stunned into stillness long enough to see the helper. Then distance reclaimed its rule and each walked away. The llama had filed it as odd kindness. The lion had filed it as debt. The present arranged itself around that old moment like iron filings around a magnet. The lion's gaze, blown wide by pain and effort, steadied on the llama with a recognition that had no theatrics, only gravity. This was balance settling. The rescue was not charity or miracle. It was the turn of a long hinge. The llama felt shame for forgetting and relief for remembering, equal weights pulling the same direction, toward a meaning larger than prey and predator. He saw now why the lion had thrown himself into numbers that didn't favor him. Debts in the wild are rare and expensive, paying them scars. The air seemed to lighten, though nothing in it changed, as if the story had slid into its right groove. The wolf's absence felt temporary again. Bonds don't cancel danger, they organize it differently. From the tree line, shapes resolved into safety's faces. The mother moved first, stepping into exposed ground with the resolve of one who has weighed risks against the need to see. The children followed in a line broken by awe and caution, their eyes fixed on the lion, then on the red that marked his heroism and wounds. The meadow, so violent minutes ago, became a table where gratitude was set with trembling care. The llama positioned himself to bridge both worlds, the fragile and the fierce. No one moved fast. The lion's sides rose and fell, each lift a negotiation with his own heart. The little one's breath came quick, then steadied, their bodies reading the adult's posture and learning a new shape of possible. The family's circle stretched to include a danger that had saved them.
Trust rarely arrives as a banner. It sneaks in as proximity that doesn't end badly. The smallest of the young edged closer, nostrils flaring at the dense scent of cat and blood, shrinking back when a muscle jumped, then inching forward again. The mother allowed the approach without endorsement, eyes split between curiosity and contingency. The lion did not perform gentleness, he simply endured it, which, from him, was greater. His tail made a slow, minimal stroke against the ground. Not invitation, not dismissal, a metronome keeping time with pain. The llama watched with the historical weight of prey etched into bone, accepting that some rules can bend when life insists. The moment held, delicate as a web in a doorway. Wind combed the grass and did not find panic. Somewhere, a lark tried singing again and almost succeeded. The world beyond tooth and claw answered through the memory of a sign near the forest's edge. A clinic once observed at distance and dismissed as not for us. Need updated the map. The llama moved, legs still unsteady, following a scent trail of antiseptic and oil that the wind had always carried, but he had never translated. He threaded the trees, found the dirt track where tires had written their own animal paths. Heat rose from the ground in faint shimmerings. A low building appeared, unthreatening geometry tucked into green. He hesitated only once, then stepped into view the way desperation teaches, boldly, because subtlety is too slow. Inside, someone noticed shape and need and moved. Engines woke. The llama led back, a guide between worlds, ears flicking at the alien rhythm of a machine that could outrun wolves.
Gravel spit under tires as the vehicle skidded into the meadow's torn calm. Doors opened and hands arranged purpose into speed. Cloth met wound, liquid stung then soothed. The lion's body argued with every touch, yet accepted the math of survival reworked in gauze and practiced pressure. The veterinarian read injuries like a familiar text, eyes precise, voice calm to their own heart more than to an audience that didn't speak words. Bandages climbed the lion's flank like pale vines. A needle slid and left medicine flowering into aching muscle. Breathing deepened, then settled into a cadence that didn't promise forever, but promised later. The family stood at the margin, statues carved from relief, held tight by fear's residue. Dust drifted in soft curtains. The sun, unromantic, continued crossing the sky. Life allowed another page. Days later, the meadow remembers and forgets in equal measure. Grass springs where claws wrote their arguments. The llama grazes with a new habit of scanning, but with a loosened heart. On the ridge, a tawny figure claims shadow and sunlight in equal shares, healed enough to be dangerous again, heard enough to remember limitation. The wind carries two kinds of scent between them that no longer translate as threat. In the far distance, gray backs ripple and vanish, patience choosing seasons over moments. The bond is not a fence, it is a bridge, and bridges do not stop rivers, they make crossing possible. The llama lifts his head, reads the horizon, returns to grass. The lion watches the way guardians do, present, uninvited, necessary. The meadow exhales. Peace settles like dust, knowing it will be disturbed, accepting its brief, shining tenure.